Late at night, a small object appears on radar. Too small to be a missile, too slow to be a fighter jet, but it is moving directly toward a United States military base. Within minutes, alarms sound. Air defense systems activate, soldiers rush to hardened shelters. And somewhere hundreds of kilometers away, the operator who launched that aircraft is not sitting in a cockpit. He is sitting behind a computer screen, because the weapon approaching the base is not a pilot. It is a drone. Over the past few years, American military installations across the Middle East have been repeatedly targeted by drone strikes linked to Iran and its regional allies. Some attacks cause limited damage, others nearly trigger major escalation. Each strike carries a dangerous question. Is this the beginning of a larger war? And how did relatively inexpensive unmanned aircraft become one of the most important weapons in the geopolitical rivalry between Iran and the United States? To understand that, we need to look beyond the drones themselves, because this story begins decades earlier, with a revolution, a war, and a strategy built around asymmetric warfare. Today, U.S. military bases across the Middle East operate under a constant threat environment. Installations in Iraq, Syria, and the Persian Gulf maintain layered air defense systems designed to intercept rockets, missiles, and increasingly drones. These bases serve several strategic purposes. They support counter-terrorism operations, they monitor regional security developments, and they reinforce American military influence in one of the world's most volatile regions. But for Iran and its network of allied militias, these installations represent something else: forward operating symbols of American power, targets that can be challenged without triggering full-scale war. And drones have become one of the preferred tools for that challenge. But this strategy did not appear overnight. It evolved through decades of geopolitical confrontation. To understand Iran's approach to drone warfare, we must go back to 1979. That year marked one of the most dramatic political transformations in modern Middle Eastern history. The Iranian Revolution overthrew the monarchy of Shah Mohammad Reza Pahlavi. Ayatollah Ruhollah Khomeini established an Islamic republic built around revolutionary ideology and opposition to Western influence. Relations with the United States collapsed almost immediately. The hostage crisis at the U.S. Embassy in Tehran symbolized the rupture. Sanctions followed, diplomatic ties were severed, and a long period of hostility began. But the revolution also created a strategic problem for Iran. The country now faced a powerful adversary, with one of the most advanced militaries in the world. Direct confrontation would be extremely risky. So Iranian strategists began developing a different approach: asymmetric warfare. Instead of matching the United States weapon for weapon, Iran would rely on unconventional tools, proxy forces, ballistic missiles, and eventually unmanned aerial systems. But this strategy would take time to develop. And the first major test came during a devastating regional war. In 1980, Iraq invaded Iran. The Iran-Iraq War would last 8 brutal years. Both sides suffered enormous casualties, cities were bombed, chemical weapons were used, and the conflict drained Iran's resources. During the war, Iran experienced a major limitation. Its air force and advanced military equipment relied heavily on American technology acquired during the Shah's rule. After the revolution, access to spare parts and maintenance systems collapsed. Iran's conventional military capabilities weakened dramatically. This forced Iranian military planners to innovate. They began experimenting with unconventional weapons and surveillance technologies. Early reconnaissance drones appeared during this period, crude and limited in capability, but they represented the beginning of a technological shift. Iran had discovered a new battlefield advantage. Unmanned aircraft could observe enemy movements without risking pilots, and with further development, they could eventually carry weapons. At the time, few observers realized how significant this shift would become. But the foundation of Iran's drone program had been established. During the 1990s and early 2000s, Iran quietly expanded its drone research and development programs. Engineers focused on improving endurance, navigation systems, and payload capacity. Military doctrine evolved alongside the technology. Drones were not only reconnaissance tools, they could become precision strike weapons. At the same time, Iran began cultivating regional alliances. Hezbollah, in Lebanon, various militia groups in Iraq, later the Houthi movement in Yemen. These partnerships created a network of proxy forces aligned with Iranian strategic interests, and over time, drones began appearing within these groups as well. The strategy served several purposes. It extended Iran's influence, it created multiple pressure points against adversaries, and it provided plausible deniability. If a drone attack occurred, responsibility could remain ambiguous. This approach would become central to Iran's regional military strategy. The U.S. invasion of Iraq in 2003 dramatically reshaped the geopolitical landscape. American forces established military bases across Iraq. Iran suddenly found itself operating in a region filled with U.S. troops. From Tehran's perspective, this created both risk and opportunity. Risk, because American forces now surrounded Iran from multiple directions. Opportunity, because Iraq's new political environment allowed Iran to build influence with local militias and political factions. These militias gradually developed military capabilities of their own: rocket systems, improvised explosive devices, and eventually, drones. At first, these drone systems were simple, short-range, limited accuracy, but technology improved quickly. Commercial components made drone development cheaper and easier. Navigation systems became more precise, payload capacity increased, and soon, drones capable of carrying explosives began appearing in militia arsenals. This evolution set the stage for a new phase of conflict. By the late 2000s, drone attacks on U.S. installations had become more frequent. Bases in Iraq and Syria reported attempted drone strikes. Some attacks were intercepted by air defense systems. Others caused damage to infrastructure. Each incident raised the risk of escalation because attribution remained complicated. Iran often denied direct involvement, but intelligence assessments suggested that many militias conducting these attacks received training, funding, or technology linked to Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. The strategy allowed Iran to challenge U.S. forces indirectly, and the drones themselves offered several tactical advantages. They were inexpensive compared to traditional missiles. They could fly low and evade radar, and they could be launched from remote locations. These characteristics made them difficult to detect and intercept. But the most dangerous moment in this evolving conflict occurred in 2020. In January 2020, a U.S. drone strike killed Iranian General Qasem Soleimani in Baghdad. Soleimani commanded the Quds Force, the branch of Iran's Revolutionary Guard responsible for overseas military operations. His death sent shockwaves across the region. Iran vowed retaliation. Within days, Iranian ballistic missiles struck U.S. bases in Iraq. Dozens of American soldiers suffered traumatic brain injuries. The confrontation brought the two countries dangerously close to direct war, but after the immediate crisis subsided, the conflict returned to a familiar pattern: indirect confrontation, proxy activity, and increasingly drone attacks. Today, drones have become a central element of modern asymmetric warfare. Iran continues developing advanced unmanned aerial systems. Some models can travel long distances, others carry precision-guided munitions. Many are designed to overwhelm traditional air defense systems through swarm tactics. Meanwhile, U.S. forces continue adapting their defenses. New radar technologies, electronic warfare systems, and counter-drone interception capabilities. But the challenge remains significant, because drone technology is evolving rapidly, and the cost imbalance favors the attacker. A relatively inexpensive drone can threaten a military installation worth billions of dollars. This reality is reshaping military strategy across the region, and it ensures that drone warfare will remain a central feature of the U.S.-Iran rivalry. The story of Iran's drone attacks on U.S. bases is not simply about new technology. It is about a strategic doctrine developed over decades, a doctrine shaped by revolution, war, sanctions, and geopolitical rivalry. Iran cannot match the United States in conventional military power, but through asymmetric warfare, proxy alliances, and unmanned systems, it can challenge American influence in the region. And every drone launch carries a message, a signal of deterrence, a demonstration of capability, and sometimes a warning. And that is how drone warfare became one of the defining tools in the long confrontation between Iran and the United States. A conflict built not on direct battles between armies, but on shadow warfare, proxy forces, cyber operations, and increasingly unmanned aircraft flying through the night sky. The technology is evolving, the strategies are adapting, and the geopolitical rivalry behind it continues. If this video helped you understand the deeper story behind one of the most modern forms of warfare shaping the Middle East today, consider subscribing for more deep dive explanations of global conflicts and geopolitical strategy.